Hey everyone, welcome back to She Bars Podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Shell, and today's guest is Luce. Hi, Luce.
Hi, Brooke. It's nice to
Thank you.
meet you, and thanks for
You
having
too.
me.
Thank you so much for being a guest. So, today I wanted to talk about your book series, Delicious Surrender. So, can you tell us what inspired you to write Delicious Surrender?
Absolutely. I have always loved romance since about my late 20s. I actually was not much of a reader until that point, and I discovered all variety of romances from the sweet ones of Harlequin to historical
Oh,
bodice-ripping romances of Johanna Lindsey. And then I graduated over time to black lace novels that were popular in the 90s. And I had always loved the genre and felt that maybe one day I could write. And I started back then just for myself as a hobby. But that was what
nice.
inspired me, those books.
Nice. So, can you summarize the story and the central themes of the book?
For sure. So my protagonist, Bryn, is an aspiring author. There's one similarity. And she's trying to get her erotic novel published. And the
Oh,
agent tells her, unfortunately, it's just not hitting the mark. Her spicy scenes are not realistic enough. And so she sends her away with some direction. Go back to the drawing board and improve your manuscript, and I'll take a look at sometime later. So this is her dilemma, finding a way to get more experience. And her boyfriend of a year or so, they've just recently broken up. He has no interest in adventuring out of the norm in the bedroom, and so they mutually dump one another. And she's just completely fed up with relationships at this point anyway, and gets a job at a gentleman's club, and it's an exclusive members only gentleman's club that does have the it has fetish nights, and it has uh, well, the opportunity to she will have the opportunity to observe people in the dominant submissive relationships, and she's not participating. She gets a job as a waitress, and this she thinks is the best way for her to be an observer of the scene to help improve her manuscript. So that's how it begins. And the owner of the club is an aloof, chill, arrogant. He's just an arrogant and dominant man who they're attracted to one another right out of the gate. The chemistry is there, but they both have trust issues and suspicions. He doesn't think she's submissive and wonders at her motives for wanting a job at the club. And she thinks he's just, it rhymes with mass. If we want to say bad words, but yeah, he's not nice. He's cold and arrogant. And as soon as they speak to one another, they don't like each other. The chemistry aside, they don't like each other. And that's where it starts.
So, what made you choose the world of D's as the backdrop for this novel?
You know, I'd always been fascinated by it, and when I built the characters and their trust issues, I felt this was one really cool way to test both their boundaries, test their trust. It's an area where trust is absolutely paramount. And I loved the books with those themes, and I'd read enough of them that I felt I had a good idea of how to craft one with a nice balance of intimacy and plot to drive it along.
Oh, okay. So this is a question outside of the questions I had listed for you, but are your books on audiobook yet? Because I
No,
would like to read them. Okay.
I haven't gone to audio yet. I probably will start investigating that. I want to find a narrator with a sexy Scottish accent, and I need some help to figure that out. But definitely, I'm going to, because people have inquired.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I would like to read these. I've never read a dominant book or any like BDSM book before, so I would like to. I've never been like, oh, let me like check this out, but this is something I would like to check out. It sounds interesting.
Well, I hope you do. I've had a couple of people who've written reviews saying this is not their normal, they not their normal go-to, but they were pleasantly surprised and maybe a little shocked, but they enjoyed it. So,
Nice, nice.
yeah.
So, how did you craft the dynamic between the inspiring novelist and the dominant Scotsman?
So I began with building the character, like a character Bible for each of them. And I let the story kind of take me. I knew that there would be friction, there'd be attraction versus friction, this grumpy sunshine dynamic. And the story unfolded in a way even that surprised me. And I just think when two people are suspicious, don't believe in love, it makes for an interesting dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. So, what do you hope readers take away from this story?
I hope they get pure enjoyment out of it, that they find, and that they're surprised. I did add quite a lot of suspense and surprise. It starts with suspicion of each other, and then many twists and turns that kind of catch you by surprise. It's not just a traditional romance in that sense. It does have some other outside characters that cause issues, and I hope they're entertained, ideally, and enjoy it.
Nice. Nice. So, what can you tell us about the protagonist and what motivates her to explore the Dee's world?
So, at the outset, it's her book, but that takes a back seat. There's a certain curiosity, and the book is the excuse to explore it. And that's really how it begins. The book is the reason, it's the catalyst to get her. She's very determined. She's going to make the manuscript as good as she can, as realistic as possible, and she'll do whatever it takes. As she starts to uncover what DNS is all about, it's intriguing to her. She does not view herself at all as a submissive. She's rather bratty. She's rather defiant. She doesn't like being told what to do, and that's why she has so much friction with Gage. But it makes for an interesting developmental arc for her to figure out what it is that intrigues her about this.
Ew, I don't want you to give it away, but I want to know if they get together so bad. Like, I want to know. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it. Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
I won't tell you. Okay.
So what inspired the creation of the dominant Scotsman? And is he based on anyone you know, or is it just purely fictional?
He's purely fictional and probably made up of a number of my favorite actors, starting with the young Sean Connery as James Bond, Theo James, Jamie from Outlander. I mean, there's a whole mix, and Tom Hiddleston, all of them. There's elements of all of them, I think, when I started to build this guy, Gage MacLeod. So, yeah.
Yeah. Those are definitely some handsome men, especially if he was. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So, did any of your characters surprise you as you wrote the story?
Definitely. I created a rather, I don't want to call him a villainous character, but I created a character that you're really not sure what his motives are. He's probably morally gray. And he took a larger role than I expected when I put him in the story. And how the entire story unfolded because of him really it surprised me as much as anybody. So I don't want to give too much away, but he's not a good man. but some readers have found him intriguing and attractive.
Is it kind of like what's that movie? 50 Shades of Grey, but like he's a mean person and not like Christian Grey? Like, is it kind of like that a little bit?
It is kind of like that. I'm a fan, and I think E.L. James really she broke the ceiling. She got these books into common people's lives, and um,
Yeah.
there is in the third book of 50 Shades a guy who is bad, and so it's similar in that regard. But this villainous one is not Gage. He's good. He's good at his heart. He just doesn't come across that way. He's hard to reach.
Ew. I'm gonna read them. I'm gonna read them. You sold me.
Okay.
So, what is one characteristic about the protagonist? I cannot say that word. I don't know why. Or the Scotsman that readers might find unexpected.
Well, when the reader originally meets him, he's arrogant. He's rather not mean, but aloof. He's not likable. And what they uncover about him over time is there is more to him, and there's a background story as to why he is that way.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got some serious trust issues too. But at a certain point, you see that he is very thoughtful and caring when it comes to Bryn, like protective of her. That's the word I was looking for. He is protective of her, even though he's not sure what her motives are. So, and that's a slow uncovering.
Oh, okay. Okay. So how long did it take for you to write Delicious Surrender?
So all in all, the actual writing part was probably a year to a year and a half. And I was working full time. And then the editing process, which was, I think, more difficult because it was big and it needed to be cut down.
Mm-hmm.
The editing process was about a year. And then I thought, oh, okay, I'll find an agent and they will have an editor cut it down some more. But that isn't how things unfolded. And I ended up hiring myself a professional editor to do a developmental edit, the proofreading, the line editing, everything. And so I began this journey in March of 2020, thanks to COVID. I had the gift of solitude and peace and a lot of alone time that I could have sat and watched Netflix, but I chose instead to resurface a dream that I had long buried. I'd put it aside for motherhood, career, etc. And I finally had the opportunity to pull a manuscript out of a box and say, okay, it's time. It really is time. And that's how it happened.
Oh, okay. Nice. Nice. So, what was the most challenging scene to write and why?
So, not to give too much away, but it was one of the final really suspenseful, terrorizing kind of scenes, because I'd never written anything like that. And it was just logistically, where are people standing? There's some violence. That's a good word. There is some violence and people at risk. And I had to build it realistically. And it was the one I struggled with the most. And I asked a lot of people, I need some input. Tell me if this sounds logistically doable. Does it make any sense? And even my son, he's like, I think you ought to take the word jugular out of there. It's too formal, and you don't have to say that blood was spurting out of his jugular. you can just say out of his neck. Good, thank you. So that gives you an idea. It's not all sweetness and light.
Oh man. So how did your research and themes and dynamics of the these to create the portrayal?
A lot of online research,
A lot.
truly, a lot. If it's my Google search was something to behold. I mean, I looked up everything. I looked up how a certain kind of impact instrument, like a paddle or
Yeah.
a cat o' nine tails, there's any number of kinds of tools that are used in BDSM.
Yep.
And I needed to know what they felt like. I needed to know what they sounded like. And I researched everything. I really did. And when it came to the club itself, that I just conjured up. I don't know if a club like it exists. It's not like some of the nightclubs that are around in the UK, because I researched those too. It's different in that it's much more elite, and it's
Yes, way
yeah,
private. Like
very
we have two out here in Louisville, where I'm from. We have two out
Mhm.
here, but you won't know it is one of those clubs unless
Oh,
you know. Like you have to
okay,
know that it's one.
right.
But yeah, we have two.
That was similar. This is very private, membership only, and
Mhm.
only very wealthy, very
Yeah.
wealthy men can join. So yeah.
Oh wow. Wow. So
Mhm.
I didn't know about BDSM until
Mhm.
I watched 50 Shades of Grey. And like
Right.
people's like, "What? You're like 37 years old. You didn't know about this?" I was like, "No, maybe I'm just like a virgin or something. I don't know." But I never knew about it.
Well, and I that's why I think when 50 Shades came out, it really did open a lot of people's eyes. It was on everybody's lips at the water cooler. Oh, did you hear about that book? I mean, some people were whispering about it, but they went out and they got it sheerly because of sheer curiosity.
Yeah.
And I think it opened a lot of people's eyes. And it's a lovely, fantastical escape when you're
Mhm.
reading. And this is what I've really found. More and more books are pushing the envelope. They're they're not necessarily BDSM, but they're darker. They have
Mhm.
morally gray heroes,
Mhm.
and this seems to be a very popular trend. If you look at Book Talk and
Mhm.
Bookstagram, you see more and more of that kind of book. I wanted to stay kind of in the middle, more like 50 Shades, with at its heart a love story,
Mhm.
and and some erotic intimacy as well.
Yeah.
So a nice balance.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Nice. So did you face any challenges writing about such an intimate and complex subject?
I did. And these challenges were self-imposed. It was really writing. It wasn't the challenge. It was the decision to put it out there into the world and say,
Mhm.
okay, I'm going to
Yeah.
let people know, friends are going to know I conjured this stuff up and I put it in a book. And there's a fear of judgment. There's
Yeah.
just a fear. I have described it as stripping naked and walking down the street. It's
Mhm.
literally like that in a way, because these are things you have created. These are characters you created in
Yeah.
situations. Um, but yeah,
How
that was
did
the big
how did
hurdle.
your how did your grown adult children think about this? Like, was they like moms like, whoa?
Oh,
Like,
exactly. For a while, he would just shh, don't want to know, don't want to know. But he's had to get over it, and he's very supportive, and there's a dedication in the front of the book, because
Aw.
he, even if he didn't really want to know what it was about, he was like, did you hit your word count this week? And I
Aw.
needed that. I needed accountability to stay on
That's
track.
sweet. That's
So
sweet. That's
mhm,
sweet to have that support.
yes.
So when did you first realize you wanted to become a writer? Because you're a new writer, right? Like you're
Yes.
new at this. Yeah. When did you first realize you wanted to become a writer?
Well, more than 25, 30 years ago,
Oh.
it was a hobby. It was really just a hobby for myself,
Hmm.
and I wouldn't let anybody read what I wrote. I
Oh.
put it on the back burner. At times, I would pull it out and start writing again. And you know, when I resurfaced this idea. I had 15 unfinished manuscripts in various stages of completion, none complete, but and even one of them was written in Word Perfect, which is long gone, on a little diskette. I had to have it converted. And so it was always there, but it was never brought to the front. I didn't put the focus and the time and effort into it. Yeah, until 2020. So.
Oh, well, it's never too late. I think a lot of authors started out, like a lot of famous authors have started out really late too, like late in.
Yeah, because you get to, I think with each decade that you grow, you become less worried about what people think of you, truly.
Yep.
Like it just really doesn't matter. And I think you grow and evolve strength-wise too, to be able to, share this and not have a fear of judgment. Yeah. That comes with age and experience. At least for me, it did.
So who are a few of your biggest literary influences? I cannot pronounce that either.
So a number of them. Johanna Lindsey. Now she wrote historical romances, but they were quite steamy. In fact, like up on my bookcase behind me is a double shelf of all of her novels. And I found her in my late 20s, and I read every single one. They were fantastic. And sadly, she has passed away, which is, horrible and sad. Sylvia Day, the Bear to You Crossfire series. Obviously 50 Shades. Maya Banks, she was a bit of a trendsetter too. She had a number of novels that were pretty racy. Cressley Cole, even though her usual genre is, I don't actually know what you call it, like supernatural stuff and shape-shifting stuff, but she wrote 3 erotic novels that were fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And Sadie Kincaid is a more recent one that I think is fantastic. So
nice. Yeah. I think I've heard of Sadie before.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have. So how did your personal experiences shape the story in Delicious Surrender?
In two different ways. Obviously the struggle of writing and the struggle to get published, but also trust. Once you have had a relationship fall apart, and it is because of trust, someone broke your trust, and that did happen to me. And I think I could very much relate to how Bryn had said, I've given up on boyfriends and men in general. I will date. I'll keep it to a 3-date rule because I don't want to fall for anybody. Not interested. I'll just be disappointed. And I think I could relate to that way back. And that's really how my own personal experiences helped shape her.
Oh, okay. Not bad. What advice would you give inspiring authors who want to write an erotic romance genre?
So when I heard this question, it was like, just do it. Honestly, go for it. But find good beta readers who love the genre that you're going to write in, so that they can read it and give you feedback early in the process. And to read. Figure out exactly what you like the best. And the more you read, the more familiar you are with what readers want, honestly. And you have to fit certain elements when you're writing a romance, and figure out what you like best, and then just dive right in. What I will say too is learn before you write too much. Learn all you can about the structure of a novel, the 3-act structure, 3 or 5-act structure, scene structure. When I started, I really went back to basics. It was like building the foundation of a house. I had to figure that out first, because I'd always been a pantster. I just sat down and started a story. But I could see how you would write yourself into a corner and not be able to keep going, because you didn't know what was your end game going to be. So it was really important for me I spent a good 2.5 months learning that process. I didn't know each individual scene had a structure. So
Oh,
it was
wow.
quite a learning experience. But yeah,
Wow.
anyone can do it with enough drive, passion for it.
Wow. Let me ask you a question outside of these questions I was going to ask you.
Mhm.
But when you did start writing this very first book,
Mhm.
how did you go about doing it? Like, did you do it in scenes? Like, I'm trying to make it make sense. Like, did you do a web, or did you do like scenes, or did you just start writing? Like, just start writing?
I I had sort of an outline thought out, but not the full story. In a lot of cases, people plot the entire book, like chapter down to scenes. I didn't. I knew. I built the character Bibles first. Then I came up with the setting, and then I thought a lot and just really scribbled a lot about how I saw things unfolding, and then I went back to the 3-act structure and said, okay, so you have to have these continual, what do they call them? Well, issues, things that get in their way. She's got a goal. I want to get published, and all kinds of disasters, mini disasters, have to keep happening to keep the reader engaged. And so you build the momentum up to that climax, and then what happens after that. And so really it was the basic structure was there, but I didn't know if you take it back to building a house, you've got the foundation, you put up some walls. I had no idea how I was going to decorate. So the bare walls were there, and then I just went with my feeling and my gut with how it unfolded, and surprised myself. Like I said, some of these very suspenseful things that happened, I had not planned. So,
Oh, wow. Nice.
mhm.
Nice. So, what inspired the exploration of trust, power, and vulnerability in this story?
It unfolded naturally once I created these characters, and I built them both to be reserved, not wanting relationships, but ultimately with an attraction factor that neither of them could deny. And that drove them to the interaction, which grew. So it was organic the way it unfolded. It's hard for me to put a finger on exactly what, but yeah, I don't know if that answered it.
Yeah, I did. So, what role does Scotland play in the story setting, and how does it contribute to the atmosphere?
So I have a deep love of Scotland. I've been a couple of times, and in fact was supposed to go back in 2019. But I'd started a new job, and I had to cancel. My husband and I had to cancel the trip. But I have a connection to it. I have a family history to it as well. And I fell in love with the Highlands, with the Isle of Skye. So I knew in my mind it was a very romantic setting. And I like the difference, the dichotomy between London, a bustling, loud city with people who you never engage with on the street, to Skye with a small town feel, very rugged, very barren, intense weather, and somewhat isolated, definitely. And I liked the fact that her aunt in the story is a writer, and she escapes to her little cottage in Skye, and that's where she is the most inspired. It's where she writes. And so Bryn always had a connection to it. She spent her childhood summers there. And anyway, it to me, it was a given. It was going to be somewhere in Scotland, and I chose Skye because of my love of it.
Aw, I bet you it's pretty down there, or up
Oh, it
there.
is. It is. It's gorgeous. Yes. cold at times, windy. So
So, how did you balance writing an erotic content with creating a compelling emotional story?
I knew the story had to have both. I didn't want to, like I say, veer off into pure erotica. I wanted at the heart of it, the relationship developing, slowly developing, and with different motivation, not for, the two people really don't want a relationship with anyone, but they're brought together because of their chemistry. And again, it was not totally planned, but I just let the characters. I built the characters first, and then let it kind of unfold.
Okay, not bad, not bad. So, what has been the most surprising feedback you received from readers so far?
A couple of people have expressed that they found Dimitri, the more villainous type, attractive, want him to have his own story, and
Oh.
that equal amounts of spice and plot. So readers have been positive. I'm really quite happy with feedback so far. Some have said they're really happy that she is in her 30s. She's not a super
Yeah.
young virginal type. She's got experience. She knows what she wants.
Mhm.
And some questioned the third person point of view, dual point of view, because a lot of the novels today are written in first person, and you have entire chapters from each person's perspective. But again, maybe it's a novice move, but I have dual perspectives. You get his and her dialogue and such, but yeah, third person's not everybody's favorite. That was something new I learned.
Oh, I do agree with them that I do like it that she's older, like she's around my age, so I
Yeah.
get to like, oh, okay, so it's great to read someone about like closer to my age with this type of storyline. So yeah, I do
Good.
like that. I agree with them.
Good.
So my last and final question before I let you off here, what's next for you as an author? Are there any plans for a sequel or any other books in the work, or do you have anything else going on?
Yes. So this is the first book in the series, and each one is a standalone. So it's a different couple in each of the three books. And there's a fourth that's percolating in my head about one of the characters in Delicious Surrender. But each of these male protagonists, that the stories are they're linked by the relationship that they have, that they met in college. Gage and these two other gentlemen went to university together, invested, and created a patented program together, which made them inordinately wealthy, which is a nice side benefit. So it fits the millionaire, billionaire category. And each story is about one of them. So yeah, book 2, gotta get rolling. it's
Oh yeah.
it's drawn out. Maybe half the foundation is poured, but that's as far as we're at, and we got to get going on it. So
Ooh,
that, and
yeah.
hopefully talking about this book and getting people interested.
Oh yeah, definitely. I want to thank you so much, Luce, for coming on my podcast today and chatting with me about your book.
Thanks, Brooke. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, I want to thank you all so much for listening to She Birds podcast and for supporting my podcast. I greatly appreciate it. So if you would like to check out Luce's book, you can go on her website. It is lucesutherland.com, and you can check out her book on there and purchase it and read it. Yeah, I know I am. So I hope you all have a great day, and thank you all so much for supporting She Birds podcast. Have a great day. Bye.